Well, Darrell, welcome to Studio 71. It's a pleasure to have you. We had breakfast yesterday morning, and we wanted to continue and do an interview with you. So I'd like you to explain a little bit about who you are and where you work and how you get involved with Compto.
Well, thanks, Bob. I really enjoyed our conversation yesterday, and I know it's taken a little while for us to get together, but I'm currently with the Orange County Transportation Authority, so we're right there between Los Angeles and San Diego. We're the sixth largest county by population in the U.S. and the third largest county by population in California. So about 3 million people and 400 square miles. So real small, real dense. And we're sort of got a unique place in the sense that we get to do the bus system. We do the commuter rail system along with our partners in LA County and other counties. We're the toll lane operator. We do freeway construction. We do large roadway construction. So we also are the local sales tax collecting entity. So really sort of a business-like organization, about 1,500 employees, and our budget this year is $1.1 billion. Most of that in capital construction.
Like a mini Secretary of Transportation.
Yeah, it's a good way to think about it. We've got a board of 17 members that represent the cities and the county, and then I have sort of operations and construction, and then taxi cab administration and toll lane. So it is sort of an all-encompassing focus there for the county.
So how did you get interested, or who interested you in Compto? Who told you about Compto?
Well, it's been something that's been on, I've seen it out there, been a member of APTA for a number of years, and Compto's always there. Did not know a lot about it, and late last year, probably around the Thanksgiving time, I got a note from Michael Milanofi and Phil, and they said, you should meet this guy, Colonel Page. And I put him off for like 3 straight months. That's a joke, but we just couldn't get our connection together from a travel schedule, and we had a good conversation in Orange County last fall, and then we were able to connect here in DC during the legislative conference.
And you were sold?
Well, I absolutely sold. First of all, anything that supports transit and supports development of the workforce. I mean, I think if you were to sort of look back at my history in the business, I've always supported workforce development. I'm real involved in the Women's Transportation Seminar, WTS. I've done a lot of things internally at OCTA about management and leadership development. We send people to ENO, we send people to APTA Leadership, and I'm a product of leadership development myself. So I think it's a valuable component, and I think Compto is very focused on a very specific part of leadership development, and I want to be part of that.
Tell us a little bit about how you got into transit, because I think that's an interesting story.
Well, so I grew up, blue-collar family. I was the first in my family to go to college. I was studying political science at the University of California, and I started sort of seeing that things that were of interest to me were really about how the urban fabric worked better. And, there's education, there's air quality, there's water, jobs, economic activity. But I really thought that transportation, infrastructure and transportation, if you could make that better, the whole world would be better. Maybe a little naive, but I still believe it, by the way. It really drives everything we do. So I had an opportunity to, I started with Amtrak, and I answered telephones on their call center when I was a sophomore in college. 1-800-USA Rail, I'd help you make your travel and transportation arrangements.
Wow, you're the one.
Well, then from there, I did finish school, and Amtrak had a program in the early 90s. It was a management trainee program. Had about 1,000 applicants, and 7 of us were selected, and I was in that program, and I spent a year starting here in Washington and then rotating throughout the country through all aspects of the organization, operations and government relations and planning and marketing, and did that for a year, and then I wound up back in Los Angeles where I was from, and I was an operations supervisor at Union Station. I did that for a year and got the overnight shift. Didn't start out on the plum shift, but that's where you earn your marks.
Nice split days off.
Exactly. I think I had Sundays and Wednesdays off or something.
So you saw it from the ground up. So like myself, I started as an operator. We got to see it from we didn't come into the C-suite. We sort of got there the long way. Not always do I say that that's the only way to get there, but it gives you a greater appreciation for all of the trials and tribulations of the workforce itself, because I have great appreciation for everybody, from the person that turns the wheel to the person that deals with a lug wrench, understanding what they have to go through to do their job every day, and I have great respect for that. And I know you do also. One of the things we talked about yesterday, and I wanted you to get on record about is youth development. Getting into training the next workforce. Talk about a little bit about that.
Well, I think a couple things. First of all, we need to understand where the current workforce is at, right? I'm sure it's similar in many parts of the country, but when I look at the workforce at OCTA and I broaden that a little bit more to California in general, we've got a transit industry that started really in earnest in the early 70s in California for various reasons. So now when I look at the workforce, I've got 50% of my operations workforce that's over the age of 50, and I've got 30% that are over the age of 60. So when I look at that institutional knowledge that is on its way to retirement age, these folks have put in a long career, they've done a lot of great things, but we really need to think about who we're developing to be leaders and managers of our workforce in the future. And it's not going to happen by accident. We have to take a very active role in how we do that, whether it's through youth development, through existing workforce development, through leadership programs or technical training. All of those things, you have to focus on them, and it just doesn't happen by accident.
We found it interesting that we have a great intern program. And what I noticed when we're talking to young people, when you say transportation to young people, the first thing they think about is the end product, the bus, the train, the trolley. They don't think about all of the jobs that are there. They don't think about the architect. They don't think about the marketing person. They don't think about the lawyer. They don't think about all of the jobs that are encompassed to make to make the transportation systems work. And when they get in here, they found out that, wow, this is a big deal, that I can actually have a career here. And they get it in your blood. And once it's in your blood, it's hard to get it out,
I agree with that. I oftentimes ask younger people when they ask me, how did I get into what I'm into? How did I get into the executive suite? And they want to know how they get there. And I ask them one question. I'll use an example recently. I talked to a finance guy. I said, do you want to be a finance guy in transportation, or do you want to be a finance guy anywhere? And when you can answer that question, then you can figure out what drives your passion and what drives you. So and I think you can apply that to technology. Do you want to be a web developer anywhere, or do you want to be a web developer in the transportation industry? And what I'm trying to get them to think about is the value that transportation has for society. And more often than not, when they can figure out the answer to that question for themselves, then they have more clarity on how they can get where they need to go. And because there are so many things, whether it's finance or marketing or technology, business applications, accounting, purchasing, you can do those at any company. You can do those in any industry. But this idea of public transportation, buses, trains, roadways, all these, it's so exciting. I'm passionate about it, and I try to instill that passion. And if you can do what you like from a functional area, and you can do it in something that gives back to society in terms of transportation, I think it's a win-win.
So we're looking at win-wins, and I come from Massachusetts, and Lord knows we've had one heck of a winter. So I'd like to ship you some snow from California.
We do have a drought, so we could use that.
But all that being said, there's a program that's coming up that I know that Phil Washington has been spearheading, which is Stand Up for Transportation. I think it's on April 9th. What is your agency doing, and are you backing this fully, or have you got programs set up to want to initiate this?
First of all, I think Phil's idea on a National Day of Standing Up for Transportation is excellent. He's been very focused on it. Every time we see him, he's talking about it, and you have to have that. You have to have that drive, and you have to have that vision. What we're doing, being in Orange County, we're in the LA media market, but that media market is huge. So trying to break through and get the coverage we need, we've tried to approach it a little bit different. So what we're going to do is partner with Long Beach Transit. So they're over just sort of northwest of us, and they're part of Southwest Los Angeles County. But we have big things that we do together with Long Beach Transit. There's a big VA hospital there. There's a Cal State Long Beach. We run buses across service areas. So we thought that we'd try to maybe twist that up a little bit. Instead of having a downtown LA focus, it's also the Long Beach Grand Prix is going on. So we know there's going to be a lot of TV cameras in town. Race cars and Long Beach go hand in hand. So we're working on exactly how we're going to do that still. But this idea of trying to leverage off of that is our hope and our plan. But we want to make it visible, and we want to talk about the value for public transit in the Southern California region.
Cool. Is that Ken McDonald?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow, so that's a great market to be able to get that out there, and a Grand Prix. Wow. Yeah. Guys wearing T-shirts that say "Stand Up for Transportation." That's cool. I appreciate you taking the time, to do this because, we want to make sure, from Compto's perspective, that we get to as many general managers around the nation to get their perspectives, especially people who are involved in our organization, to get them exposed, to get their views out there. Studio 71 is one of the mediums that we can use to get that message out there. And I truly appreciate you taking the time to do this. And if there's any message that we want to get there, we want to get more leaders involved, because the more we get involved, the more jobs we can put forward, the more people we can advance into our industry, because I'm getting older, and I'm afraid that at some point you'll get older. And we want to make sure that we train the next workforce.
Well, Bob, I think we've got to train the next workforce, and we should be thoughtful. We all were passed on something from the generation before us, whether it was the development of the interstate highway system, legacy transit systems in big cities like Boston that were all passed on. We have to take care of those. And I think as we look around America today, we're not doing as good of a job collectively as we need to be on to take care of those. And as I look to the future, at some point, my career will be over. I'll retire. I'll move on. But I want to leave it for my kids. I have young kids. I want them to have a good infrastructure in America. I want the economy to work well. I want them to be able to get around, and I want everybody to be able to do that. And our workforce is changing. We got to think about the different needs. The millennials are something that, we're learning every day on what their needs and their interests and their wants are. So just doing the same thing over may not be enough. We've got to think about what the future looks like. And I think dealing with leadership development, management development, but exciting people about the investment in transportation has to be at the forefront of that. And we've got to take care of our infrastructure.
Well, you're preaching to the choir, because infrastructure investment on state of good repair was one of my mantras years ago. And people laughed at me back then because the systems hadn't come of age yet. And I had the oldest subway system in America. So it wasn't that I was the smartest person in the room. It was the fact that it was breaking down already. And there were areas that people weren't paying attention to. And after seeing what the winter has done in Massachusetts, and seeing how it's gridlocked the city, the country has to realize, just like as things went in Boston when we threw all that man's tea in the water with no taxation, with our representation, we got the same issue going on with transportation. As we go, so goes the country, because if they're not careful, what happened in Boston with gridlock is going to happen across the nation. And we better wake up and smell the coffee here and get Congress to at least pass a long-term highway bill, because we can't make investments as they kick the can down the road, just giving us small pieces of the puzzle. We need to plan, and plan well, because the future is now.
Well, I think that's you're right on spot with that. It's sort of a little bit like taking care of what we have is a little bit like safety. Everybody expects it to work and expects it to be safe. It's where you have those failures where you notice your flaws. And we've had some opportunities to see where there's been some flaws. What you just described with Boston is perhaps one of those. And I think now's the time. I'm excited and energized that maybe the Congress is looking about maintaining our system. I know in California, Governor Brown has talked a lot about fix it first. And I think that's it's a good, simple way to say what we need to do, which is fix it first and move on. And we've got to take care of that infrastructure.
Well, Darrell, I appreciate your time. I know you got a plane to catch.
I do, but I'll just close by saying I'm excited to be part of Compto. Our workforce is changing; it's becoming more diverse than ever, and I really appreciate the opportunity to sit and talk to you for a bit. And I really appreciate the invitation to have OCTA be part of Compto. As soon as we were asked, we stepped right up and joined right away. So thank you again.
So the pleasure was all mine. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Right now.